Hey everyone. Hi V.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Welcome everybody to MIRICRIS. We're channeling the news behind global events, which is our weekly show. Welcome. We're almost to 11,000 subscribers. So exciting. We so appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quoi de neuf, V? What's happening?
I really am I'm doing some sort of great cosmic thing of watching how many ways that, for example, US politics has run through these similar deceptions, conquering battles. I'm going, is this the way it has to go? Or I want to ask MIRICRIS if all this talk about evolution is true, or are we stuck on a wheel that's gone on and on and on? So there's a lot of detail in what I'm saying, not a lot of detail that I'm presenting, but we all have a lot of details in our mind, and I'm eager with that particular perspective to keep
Hmm.
rising up through our conversation today.
Yeah, sounds great. Let's do it. I also would love to talk to MIRICRIS about our new Pope, Robert Prevost, as
Mhm.
well. And so, shall we?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will bring in Miracris right now, but I just want to say maybe he is one of the steps toward an evolutionary response to religion or world powers or whatever. We'll talk about that too. Let's call in the presence. Let's bring in Miracris. They're eager to speak. Oh, here we are. We are here. We are very enthusiastic about some of the changes amongst the leaders on your planet at this time. We say the planet because there's very little that America decides that doesn't impact other countries all over the world, and you know that. And America should probably reach deep down in the heart and soul to embrace that consciousness. Many people don't have that consciousness except when they use terms like domination. But we're saying
Mhm.
to you that there is a huge change coming up, and it's going to face a great deal of subterfuge by those who want power. You understand that? But we're saying that there's a great deal of potential here if people work hard enough with the consciousness of evolution. You understand what I'm trying to say here?
Mhm.
And it is possible. Now, you can ask specific questions, but that's one of the deeper feelings that many of us in this particular level of consciousness want to be working with.
Mhm. Yes, evolution. It's absolutely necessary. Um, Hello, Mary Chris. Welcome.
Hello.
Curious about our new Pope, Robert Prevost, born in Chicago, first American Pope, naturalized as a Peruvian in 2015, dual citizen. And it's quite exciting. And I'd love to hear more about him and also how Pope Francis perceives this on the spiritual plane as well.
Well, I'm going to make some reference to what we called evolution, and that this Pope has the ability to ride levels of change on all, perhaps not all, but most levels of society, especially the American society. He has the ability to relate the ethics and the spiritual foundation that will lead people to a much higher consciousness in the world. And this is very, very, very important. And he also plays sports. You understand?
Mhm.
He has the full range of being a man, but also he has a great deal of impact for, you'll see in a while, how he impacts the spiritual flow of Roman Catholicism is quite liberating. Pope Francis also did that. You realize that? And this Pope is stepping up above what St. Francis did because
Mhm.
not St. Francis, Pope
Ah,
Francis.
that's funny. A slip of the tongue. Maybe he's going to be canonized.
That would be wonderful. But also, he did a great deal to loosen some of the underlying fabric amongst Catholics, and also to recognize the abuse and the ethics that needed to change and be evoked to open up. That has just begun. And this Pope is going to continue the process. And you'll find he has a huge two things. He creates havoc in a way
Mm-hmm.
amongst people who want to hold on to their position. You understand that? He is not impressed by people who want to hold on to their own position, you see, because ethics doesn't usually allow that, does it?
Yeah, he's been in a bit of already a little, not a battle, but in pushing back on JD Vance, some of JD Vance's statements
Isn't that
about
wonderful?
love and who gets loved first, second, third, fourth. And Pope Leo responded, it doesn't work like that.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, do you think JD Vance or anybody else might be excommunicated?
That's a very good possibility. He has two more steps to take, which would bring him to that.
Mhm.
And those are egregious, dominant statements. And the statements are, you'll bless this part, are very ignorant. The kind of statements he likes to make are dominant and ignorant. And though
Mhm.
that's what will possibly, was going to say two experiences before they will want to excommunicate him. But there's a boiling factor in and amongst Catholics around the world that this cruelty, the um, dominance, all of that has to go. This is not what we pray about. This is not what we want. You understand? So that's probably what will lead to his excommunication. But as I
Mm.
say, there's two major events coming up, and that will
Mm.
decide that.
Wow, interesting. What would be the hallmarks of Pope Leo's legacy, do you think? Looking forward and then back.
Uh, it this is a funny
Mhm.
thing to say, but it appears that one of them is going to be his intolerance of some of the
Wow.
ignorant attitudes that people have had and the jostling for position. You
Mhm.
understand there's been a lot of jostling for the political position in Catholicism, especially amongst the hierarchy. And he is
Mhm.
not going to tolerate that. He will nail that and nail that and nail that. He is a lot like Pope Francis, except that he's stronger. As we mentioned, he likes sports and so on. He's stronger about choosing the right steps and being
Mhm.
more and more intolerant over who's trying to pull the wool over his eyes.
Mhm.
To refer to J.D. Vance again, you see.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
you'll find that that's one of his greatest gifts to people.
Mm. Right.
And
And what about positions of women in the church?
very much bringing that forward in he's quite cheeky about it, meaning he brings it up as like, what a primitive approach. You know, just he wants people to laugh at themselves for
Mhm.
still using that as a way of restraining women. It's just extremely primitive, and he knows that. Now, he's not going to bring that forward immediately because that would give him a great deal of distress as he's trying to make inroads.
Mm.
But you'll notice within a year, 2 years, he's made a huge difference. In fact, there's special kinds of classes for women and young girls that are going to come up throughout the entire church setup. You'll find it quite interesting.
Yeah, Chris, do you see women holding positions as bishops and cardinals?
Yes, but not yet.
Now, how far
That's
away would that be?
that's a bridge too far at this moment. Just 2, 3, 4 years.
Oh,
That's not
that's
that far.
nothing.
No, but do you understand that, and you do understand that it's going to require a breakthrough, and it's going to require a kind of a disheveling sort of a fight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there are a couple of women who are brilliant, absolutely heart-filled and brilliant, and they'll be the ones that shift the dynamics for women all over the world in the Catholic world.
Wow.
And some come from South America.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And somebody from Australia, it seems. But we're seeing that the women themselves who are fighting for it are very, very strong. Very strong. And also, I want to say, very, very noble.
Yeah.
You'll feel the depth of their spiritual commitment way beyond anything that I'm laughing and saying anything way beyond anything that the male of the species has offered.
Yeah. I recently saw the movie with Ralph Fiennes called Conclave, which was very eye-opening on so many levels. And one of them, I mean, when you realize that women who are sisters in the church are 3 times more than men. So there are more sisters than priests by far. And yet they are still subservient. And in the movie Conclave, it was just outrageous to see that they were the ones cooking for all the bishops and cardinals. The men didn't even cook for themselves. They expected the sisters to do all this work and clean and just manage each other. Anyways, it was really quite.
That's going to change.
Yeah.
But some women, and this is true, some women like it's not the servitude, it's the nerve that where they serve food, you see?
Can you say
Some
that
women.
again, MIRICRIS? You broke up.
Some women, and there are a lot of nuns who are like this, really want to serve by feeding, you see?
Uh-huh.
And you'll see that that's kind of an interesting approach, rather than a subservient approach. They believe in cooking and serving and keeping this. But you'll find that there's some that are going to fighting hard because as they use that example, they say in a very kind of what would you say, a kind of an ironic way, we serve your food to help your brain be strong, but it feels like there needs to be more strengthening. And there's an awful lot referring to the brain of the male of the species who's waiting to be served, you see. And you're going to see a certain amount of humor rising in these different clashes that are going to come up. Not all of it's funny, but some parts of it are quite funny because these women are extremely smart.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Most of them have studied their whole lives.
Yes. I had the luxury of working on a documentary as part of a film crew, and we were the first ones allowed behind this particular Cistercian, the walls of the Cistercian Abbey, and I spent over a month with sisters that had never had a camera crew, let alone people from the outside come in. And I lived and I worked there for close to a month and a half, and it was
and you were close to
really, really revealing. Absolutely revealing on so many levels. We won't go into it now, but I think this might be a good topic for another show because the sisters have really removed themselves from the Roman Catholic Church. In fact, they insist they don't take orders from the Vatican. So anyways, we'll talk more about that, but yeah.
We laugh about that because that really is a step in the right direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So can we turn our sights just a little bit to this very strange gift that Qatar has offered Trump, which is a $400 million Air Force One brand new plane. And it's the theory is Boeing hasn't been able to build one. They're way behind schedule. So why not take this plane from Qatar. And I'd like to know, MIRICRIS, there's something behind all this. As we know,
There's
Qatar,
something behind all this. You are absolutely right.
yeah.
It's quite a bizarre gift, and it's got many, many, many attachments to it. Understand that?
Can you talk about that?
We see that it's bribery
Mhm.
and it's a threat all at once. Do you understand how that can happen? We want you to use this, and if you don't, there's problems. So there's a very interesting, and Qatar itself is not a very powerful nation, but it's coming up, isn't it? And it's got a
Well,
great deal of undercurrent, kind of guerrilla activity going on.
yeah, and I want to know, Qatar is also very pro-Palestinian.
Hmm.
They have sent money to Hamas. They have been involved in that effort. And it's kind of funny, this comes at a time when it seems as if the communication between Trump and Netanyahu is getting strange. For instance, yet Netanyahu was not invited to the Iranian talks,
It's
nuclear
getting
talks.
estranged, Lori.
It's getting estranged.
Yes.
And it's so Netanyahu wasn't included in those talks. And Hamas just announced the release of an American Israeli hostage.
Hmm.
Now, this plane, is this something to do with Gaza and Palestine?
Hmm.
Is
It
that part of
has.
the bribe?
Yes.
What
Now,
is,
Hamas and Palestine aren't completely the same thing. You know that.
well, Hamas has been the militant arm of the Palestinians, whether you like it or
Well,
not.
there's some subterfuge coming in through this vehicle, this air vehicle. There's some subterfuge coming in, meaning it's bribery and it's wanting to connect two groups or some groups that are not. It's hard to explain. They don't want to be connected, but they're being pushed to connect, and they're insisting that if um, if the U.S. doesn't, if Trump, it's more about Trump than the U.S., if you understand. If he doesn't accept their gift, there's going to be a lot of damage done, and that's a pretty scary. It's very scary. And as far
Well,
as
in it,
Netanyahu, that's trying to extricate him from his position, sole position of power. They're trying to move him out so he's not the key figure in all of the issues there. You understand that?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I mean, for a long time we thought it would be Israel that would occupy Gaza, but is that really true? Will it be the Gulf nations now, the Gulf Arab nations who will occupy Gaza? That's a
Yes.
question.
Hmm.
And
No,
this is
yes.
maybe, so is this deal part of the deal to get the US to stop supporting Netanyahu? Is that part of the bribe?
That's part of it. Yes. No, you have to know that there's monies changing hands.
Hmm.
And part of that is to get Netanyahu out of the picture.
Hmm.
It's a very interesting, it's not subterfuge, it's a very interesting bargaining going on. And it's
Mm.
actually very dangerous and very evil. So it sounds like it might be better, but in some ways, the kinds of um, deals that are being made are not easy. The kickback from those could be consequential for quite a long time.
Well, the other thing that's, someone's giving you a plane, guess what? It's completely, to me, it's completely outfitted with surveillance and spy technology
Yes.
from their side, listening in on what you're doing inside the plane. I mean, I have no doubt about that.
The great deal of vengeance in this.
Is there really?
Yes, but the thing is that they're at war anyway. So vengeance is not a surprising term, is it?
So when we say they, I think we need to clarify this a little bit. So if this is a bribe or a deal to get rid of, kind of push Netanyahu out of the picture more, is that right?
Mhm. That's right. But also there's split. It's Hamas, but there's another aspect that is, don't know what's the name of this group, but anyway, there's a very powerful group that is also vying for more power and trying to get rid of Netanyahu. So there's two of these groups, including Hamas, trying to change, to steer away all of what's going on in that part of the world. I would say in Israel, but it's not just Israel. It's the Gaza and
So,
the whole.
so the golden apple that's being dangled, Donald Trump is really finding it shiny and bright.
Yes, yes.
Such an idiot, isn't he?
But you have to know something, which is that the Middle Eastern power issues are much more subtle than American.
Hmm.
And there's a great deal of, we spoke of vengeance and so on. There's a great deal of subliminal or under the current techniques that are being used right now to, we'll call it slimy, to
Hmm.
woo aspects of the American political situation in this direction and that. And they have very little respect for Trump.
Interesting that he would be so awestruck by this plane,
Mhm.
and that he'd be that awestruck by it to actually want to engage. And I suspect the plane is also controlled externally, if they wanted to crash it. I think
Well,
that,
and the other, it's true. And the other interesting thing
yeah,
about Trump is that he is, in many ways, he's very naive.
yeah. I mean, this,
He
it's,
doesn't perceive the danger of some people's manipulations. You understand?
yeah,
Sometimes he does, but sometimes he does not. He's not like present at all. In fact,
right,
he's having some deficiency developments in his mind, his way of thinking.
right. So where are we at with the fate of Netanyahu currently?
Very soon he will be possibly corralled and put in some kind of confinement.
Is that part of the international court?
Mhm.
Ah, yeah.
And it's time because he's done terrible things, but you know that his plan was a pretty thorough plan. He was not going to stop until
Mhm.
Israel was totally free of all these other beings, you know? And
Mhm.
it's not going to work that way.
No.
And you're
Well,
grateful because there'd be less murder that way.
oh, the genocide has been horrific
Has
in
been
Gaza,
horrendous.
and
Yes,
it has not stopped. And when we've had a ceasefire, then that gets,
but it's interesting because you'll notice it doesn't touch Netanyahu.
no,
He doesn't feel the pain. He doesn't feel the
no,
empathy. None of that. He's a
no. It's not like
cool
his family's
heart.
been harmed or he has been harmed or, no, I mean, that just shows you Hamas is just, it's not a huge military complex. Hamas, is, whether you agree with them or not, whatever, that's beside the point. You have a major giant bombing the hell out of innocent people
Mhm.
in Gaza, and it's awful. There was just a huge protest here on Saturday in Nice,
Mhm.
France. So, very pro-Palestinian march. But yeah, it's all right. So I know we're not great on timelines, but any ideas, Mira Chris, on Netanyahu's fate and how much longer?
He's going to hit his, you called it fate. He's going to hit his denouement in probably this summer. It looks like
Yeah,
summer. Mhm.
the summer just feels like a huge time for so much that's going to erupt. or
Exactly.
change, right? Or dramatically, as we've been waiting day after day for some better news, for some real kind of change, it almost feels like the summer is when those things start to really happen.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yes. And part of it is because the summer, life becomes impossible at times in the heat.
Mm-hmm.
People can't handle it anymore.
Wow.
Um, but also you have some, again, we'll drop back to Hamas and another group, which might be made up of several different, not tribes, but communities. And
Uh-huh.
they are working hard to undo Netanyahu. They're working hard to claim their own truth, and they're going to succeed.
Yeah.
And these ones are very under the radar in a way. Hamas is not, but they are.
Well, one thing Trump did was he made a truce deal with the
Ah,
Houthis in Yemen, to
mhm.
stop bombing American ships through the canal. And Netanyahu was not part of that deal whatsoever and didn't even know about it until it was released on the news. So Trump has been doing these things without including Netanyahu
Mhm.
in the regional strategy. So perhaps it's the Houthis also that are involved, though
That's probably it. But also we see that Trump is doing some, again, we use the word subterfuge.
Mhm,
And working against Netanyahu. And
mhm,
he's going to get himself into a rather difficult trial with some of these people in the Middle East because he's lying, which you're probably familiar with. And
mhm,
he's threatening people in different ways, and he's being unreliable about what he says he's going to do and what he offers. You understand? So he's a
mhm.
crazy man that's in there disrupting
Yeah.
what's going on. So some of that is good, and some of it is pretty dangerous.
Mhm, mhm. A while back on many shows ago, MIRICRIS, we had talked about the fate of Trump. And there was some discussion of maybe him escaping to Saudi Arabia. Do you think do you think something else will interject before that, or do you think he will?
Yes. He has some health issues, which we've spoken of before. He has
Right.
some health issues coming up, but also he is creating, what would you call it, enemies. He's creating enemies. For
Hmm.
example, the Saudi Arabian thing, he has distorted several of things that he said, and there is some blocking against him. You understand?
Hmm. Hmm.
So you're going to watch him do some pretty interesting fancy footwork.
Wow.
And unfortunately, he didn't apply that to his own language, which would have
Uh-huh.
been a great deal. Lying to those people, you'll notice when there's discussions and lies for a lot of those people, they give no evidence in their face, none.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, this is a very serious time for him.
Hmm.
This airplane, this jet, it's a jet, isn't it? Yes.
That's huge.
Mhm. It's a very dangerous gift.
Yeah. On so many levels.
Oh, my goodness. And
But
it's say it's obvious, however, it isn't yet.
no. Okay, so in our timeline of all the events that have gone on and continue to go on near Chris, and where are we right now? I know we like to check in every week or so. Where are we with all the court cases, all the judges that have said no to this administration, all the
That has built a wonderful trajectory out of a trap. You understand?
Mhm.
All the court cases and so on. There is quite a roadway, if you will, for not Mr. Trump. because he is in quite a bit of trouble. But for the American political streams of energy, there's
Mhm.
quite a roadway being built so that America can reroute a lot of what's been going on. And that is new, right?
Hmm.
Trump is getting weaker and weaker, and he's also getting very befuddled in his mind. You
Mhm.
understand that? So he's doing some very astute trickery, but he probably can't manage it very well. And the
Mhm.
people around him aren't exactly wizards. So we're
And
saying that some of the dissolution of his empire will come through his own dissolution, and America will continue with its own heroic behavior. And actually, America's learned a great deal from this. That some of the hierarchy in American politics and also military
Mhm.
have gotten some richer integrity as a result of what's been going on, because many of them do not actually enjoy Mr. Trump's antics. They don't like the deception. They don't like the lies. Do you understand that? They don't like the
Right.
threats.
So we also saw military intervention at some point. Do you think
Yes, and
do you
we are
think
eager.
that
Go ahead.
no, please. Do you still see that?
Yes. And we're eager about it. And the reason we're very eager about it is that a lot of the intervention will come from some people who are in hierarchical levels and who have committed their lives and their military career to an evolutionary approach to helping the world, not destroying the world, and so on. So you have a rising of military which does refine its goals.
Mm-hmm.
And at least some of them do, not everybody, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll see they're very heroic, and you'll find that very exciting. It's not quite there yet. June, July.
Mm. Yep, it's
It's
that
not
summer
down
again.
the road.
Yeah, it's the summer again. It's going to
Mhm,
really heat up, I think, huh?
mhm, very much so.
Will he be removed by August?
You're speaking about Mr. Trump?
Yeah,
Yes.
in some sort of way, whatever route that is. It could be,
Mhm. It's almost as if he's dissipating between now and August.
ah,
And it's sometimes he's very dangerous because his mental distortions make him tougher in a way. But in another way, we're seeing he's getting weaker and he's tired.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So
So,
even with the dissipation of him, we still have this very evil administration that he put together. And, you know, there's that to deal with in hopes that JD Vance will not become president. In previous shows, we saw JD Vance not assuming the role of the president. Do you think that's still true?
that's still true. There's going to be a hue and cry against him in many ways coming up. But you've
Mm-hmm.
got to look also at the fact that the election wasn't legitimate. And even though we're not seeing a full-scale re-election happening, some of the offloading from what's gone on will correct some of the problems. So you'll find a kind of almost a renewing administration coming up in the middle of the summer.
It's very hard to envision this, how this works,
This has
because
never happened this way.
no, this is the Second American Revolution.
Yes.
Yeah, as our soothsayer astrologer Linda Sherman would say. Absolutely. Who we're going to have on our show again. Very excited about that.
Yes, she's wonderful.
Fantastic. And
Mhm.
she'll be able to tell us more about some of the astrological, um, peaks and valleys that are coming up.
And a lot of the astrological things that she spoke about before are talking about the clashes in the universe amongst belief packages of beliefs, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so there's some sudden changes because electricity in the universe becomes way too hard to keep flowing, you see. It will
Mm-hmm.
have to
Mm-hmm.
change radically. And she loves that. She's very excited about that.
Yeah. Wonderful.
That
Anything?
does leave room back to evolution. That does leave room for people to evolve, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I know we all want to see a way out of this that's very clear and concise, and that we have an exact timeline for it and what's going to really happen and how do we get rid of his administration, which are very evil. And by the way, Mayor Chris, what is the future of the Republican Party? After all this has been said and done, and they did not go up against Trump, and they've allowed so much to happen, so much injustice. What is the future of the GOP?
It's going to be completely revamped. Is that the right word? It's going to be completely overhauled. And it's going to have, we spoke of this before, which is that there's a kind of a battle coming up, probably in fairly short time, couple of weeks, amongst people in the Republican enclave. And the battle is really severe, might even kill a few people, but
Wow.
they have to fight for what their principles are and what they believe in. And they don't want to do that, but that's what's going to have to happen. So we
So they're
see it,
fighting amongst
big fight
themselves,
that's going on is going to be mostly Republican people.
fighting amongst themselves.
Yes,
Ah,
attacking one another over issues that have come up,
yeah.
which isn't unusual in the political world, but this is very much, you know how the Republicans have had a lockstep?
Yes.
Well, they don't have right now. You notice that.
Hmm. And
I
what is
guess.
the, I'm sorry, what is the future? I mean, the public will not forget this time. I mean, will the GOP ever hold power again? I mean, you really have to wonder.
Well, not not the way, well, you know this already, not the way they are right now. There's a dissemblement coming, and there has to be for a cohesiveness at all to come out of it, there has to be an acceptance or a discussion, a number of discussions about what they really believe in. And how much, here's the other issue that's going to come up a lot. How much loyalty do they, each of them have to the American way, the American Constitution? You're going to find a great deal of battle going on about the Constitution. Some of those who are not supporting the ones that are lockstep, as we talked about, some of them don't want anything to do with the Constitution,
Mhm.
and some do, and that's what's going to pull apart the lockstep, you see.
Right, but will they ever hold power ever again?
Well, no,
The way
because
that
they won't be the same. So if you've got a
it's hard to
coalescence of,
envision how it's going to be different. I'm sorry, but I believe it. I believe it. It's just there's such a corrupt, evil group of people.
Mhm.
How they could hold Congress, how could they could ever hold a majority again is very unbeknownst to me. Or the
But we're
presidential.
saying that there's such a coming apart of all that has created the Constitution and so on. There's a coming apart. And
Mm,
that's what you're going to watch, pieces reassemble and reassemble and reassemble. Hard to say
mhm,
who's going to vote for what, because even the definition of what's going on, things are going to change. What is the definition of constitution? What is the definition of mental health? What is the definition of states and governments of that? You're going to see a huge number of almost unfathomable questions. Do you understand
mhm,
that?
mhm. Well, that brings me to will, in fact, the Democrats hold the power for a very long time, and at
Yes.
least the Congress and the executive branch, the president.
We're saying yes. But that being said, it's you're going to watch a great deal of activity going on where they're going to fight and discuss where are we headed? What is this? What do we believe in? And so on.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big battle, and yet that's a good battle.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? It's
Yeah.
a purifying battle.
And I would
So
also expect the Democratic Party to be going through its own, like you say, revision. Because you have different factions inside the Democratic Party, whether it's AOC, Bernie, Chris Murphy, amazing people who,
Jasmine,
Maxwell Frost, Jasmine, yeah.
and but you'll notice that the ones you have listed are all people with a purifying instinct for what's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be a number of those. The Democratic Party is famous these days for being wishy-washy, or I don't know, but they say they're asleep. But we
Well,
don't see
not
it.
anymore.
We don't see it that way. We see it.
No.
There's a great deal of ferment and anxiety in many Democrats, and that is going to be under the tutelage of a zesty frustration. You're going to see them coming up with more and more principles. You
Mm-hmm.
see, engaging in
Mm-hmm.
principles and ethics and that kind of thing. It has to happen
Mm-hmm.
because you have an errant television, for example, influence on the people without having
Mm-hmm.
some of these set up with a lot of principles. You don't really have, it's very chaotic. You have the
Mm-hmm.
greatest commercials are what people want, you know. You have to really take it by the you have to take the upper hand with the whole society in an interesting way. And that
Mm-hmm.
sounds preposterous, but you will notice that that's going to go around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that needs to happen
Mm-hmm.
because the greed about money and the surfeit of items for sale that aren't necessarily a good thing, or even some of the teachings that go on online,
Mm-hmm.
all of that has to be looked at.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
it's rotting the society, and the society doesn't have enough room to have a bunch of them rot and a little bit more moving forward. You understand? This is a time that has to make change. It has to,
Mm-hmm.
or it's over.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then our last week when I know I stand corrected, it wasn't last week, and it was a whole completely different thing. Oh no, no, excuse me. It was 2 weeks ago on our show. We talked about you had seen for the first time, and we hadn't seen this before, that we're in dire straits. Now, having said that, it feels like the energy cleared a bit through the last couple of weeks. Would you agree that we've found our equilibrium a little bit more now?
A little bit more, yes.
Yeah, it's not
Or the
so.
momentum to keep refinding the equilibrium is steadily moving.
Yeah.
People are growing into it because many people thought it's hopeless. But many people are saying, we can do this step by step.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And America is an innovative collective of beings.
Right.
Unfortunately, some have been left by the wayside, but that's starting to be looked at.
Mm-hmm. And it's also really important that people don't burn out because this is a long road. And I love what AOC said, which she said, we can only do what we can do. If we can make a phone call once a week, if we can, you know, contact, call the White House, call your representatives, do some kind of action. And Marianne Williamson said this too, don't burn out, because a lot of people I can feel it, are burning out right now. They're
Mhm.
tuning out.
But also, you need to ask neighbors how they're doing and not be afraid all the time of
Mhm.
not speaking about what's going on, because you need that. The whole society needs that.
Yeah, we need to help each other,
Mhm.
um, even in this adversity. Absolutely. And
And
if we
as you
could,
said, the burnout is a waste of good energy. It really needs to be more of okay, this is like a hobby. There's a new way of thinking, and we're building a whole new society. It needs to be that kind of approach.
Yeah, and if we want to tune out and not listen to the news, so be it. Because the change is coming. There will be another big news flash coming that will make you go to the news and go, oh my God, thank God. You know, thank God. Like that just happened. Thank God. Maybe that is the turn. So let us pray this in. Part
And
of
you're
our,
going to hear more people complaining about using money as the key deciding force. It's wrong. That is not appropriate.
Mhm.
And many people have to come to terms with that. You understand?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, MIRICRIS, thank you. It's
Thank you, Lori. And we're eager to see, also are eager to see how it's going to format the potential for it to become evolutionary and for people to feel the power in their own lives over this next period is very high. Even very timid people, you're going to see them beginning to feel a kind of a power in themselves. This is how America became a country in the first place.
Yeah, it's true. And that was a very bloody battle.
Oh,
Absolutely. The amount of people who died. Oh, okay, MIRICRIS.
seeing,
On that happy
First Nation,
note.
we're seeing the First Nations people having a depth of understanding that they're going to bring into this melee that's coming up.
Mhm.
And that will help stitch in some of the beings that might have been left out, you see?
Mhm. All right.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. All right, everybody. Good night. We hope you sleep well and keep breathing and put good food in your body and do your meditations and stay grounded.
And thank you so much, Lori and Veronica.